Good day to each and everyone. For today's video, I'm going to discuss my second topic entitled International Economics, which have many parts, and these are the international trade between people or firms in different countries, export, the sale of goods and services abroad, import, the purchase of goods and services abroad, net exports, the value of goods and services sold abroad minus the goods and services bought from the rest of the world. Exports minus imports. Four specific reasons why a country could gain from trade. First is mutual gains from voluntary exchange of existing goods. When people voluntarily exchange existing goods, they mutually gain even though there is no increase in amount of goods in the economy by reaching the preferred combination of different goods than before trade. The second is increased competition. International trade makes home market competitive. The third is division of labor. Identified as key reason for trade, there is much less opportunity cost if the market is larger or increased production. It reduces costs since each worker can specialize and develop expertise in a certain area. The gain from trade is the reduction in cost per unit. The fourth is better use of skills and resources in different countries. Country can gain from trade if they export things or product that they are good at producing and import products that other countries are good in producing. Specialization and comparative advantage. Comparative advantage is the situation in which a person or a country can produce one good more efficiently than other good in comparison in another person or country. Absolutely advantage. Situation in which a person or country is more efficient at producing a good in comparison with another person or country. Opportunity costs. Value of the next best foregone alternative gives a way to define comparative advantage. A person with lower opportunity cost of producing a good than another person has a comparative advantage in that good. Specialization and international trade increase the productivity of nations' resources and allow for greater total output than would otherwise be possible. David Ricardo, British economist, expanded Smith's idea by observing that it pays much for a person or a country to specialize and trade even if some potential trading partner is more productive in all economic activities. Specializing enables nations to reduce the cost of obtaining the goods and services they desired by taking its comparative costs. Agents of trade growth. Transportation technology is in high transportation costs are barriers to any type of trade, particularly among traders who are distant from one another. Communication technology. Dramatic improvements in communication technology have also advanced world trade. Computers, the internet, telephones, facsimile, facsimile machines now directly link traders around the world, enabling exporters to access overseas markets to carry out trade deals. General decline in tariffs. Many nations will maintains barriers to free trade, but on average, tariffs have fallen significantly, thus increases international trade. Terms of trade. Quantity of imported goods a country can obtain in exchange for a unit of exported goods. Exchange ratio of the product in terms of quantity equal to the amount of the product imported or exported. World price. the price that equates the quantity supplied and demanded globally gains of trade. Number 1. Improvements in income based on the comparative advantage. Second, production, added output. Third, satisfaction owing to the exchange of goods or services. Improved option. Financial linkages. Four main categories of economic flows linking nations. First is goods and services flows. Trade flows, the countries export goods and services to the other nations and import goods from other nations. Second, capital and labor flows or resource flows. The country's production facilities, capital in foreign countries and foreign firms, establishment in the country. Labor also moves between nations. Third, information and technology flows. The country transmits information to other nations about their domestic products, prices, interest rates, and investment opportunities and receives such information abroad. Fourth, financial flows. The transfer of money between countries for several purposes, for example, paying for imports, buying foreign assets, paying interest on debt, and providing foreign aid. Liberalization, free trade. Free trade is a complete lack of restrictions on international trade. Trade barriers. Protection, protectionist policy. Policy used by a government that restricted trade to protect domestic producers. First is tariffs, are excise tax imposed on imported goods, imposed to, imposed to obtain revenue or to protect domestic firms against import competitions against the world. The higher the tariff, the more trade is restricted. Revenue tariff, an import tax used to provide government revenue, usually applied to a product that is not being produced domestically to obtain return from the importing country. Protective tariff, tax meant to rise the price of an imported goods in order to protect a certain domestic industry from foreign countries. Foreign competition is designed to shield domestic producers from foreign competition, puts the foreign producer at comparative disadvantage since the price of the imported goods will go higher. The second, import quota, a law that sets a fixed amount, imports, specifies the maximum amount of commodity that may be imported in any period. Third, non-tariff barriers or NTB include anything from quotas to quality standards aimed at reducing the import of foreign products. Licensing requirement that's, that specifies unreasonable standards pertaining to product quality and safety or unnecessary bureaucratic red tape that is used to restrict imports, setting standards and restricting issuance of licenses. Fourth is voluntary export restriction or VER is a trade barrier by which foreign firms voluntarily limit the amount of their exports to a particular country, used to avoid stringent trade barriers of the imported country. Cases for protection to justify trade barriers. Military self-sufficiency argument, increased domestic employment argument, diversification for stability argument, infant industry argument, strategic trade policy, protection against dumping argument, and cheap foreign labor argument.